Bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Léon, The Professional wasn't just a stylish hitman movie. It was a powder keg of behind-the-scenes chaos that permanently altered the lives of everyone involved. The film that launched Natalie Portman's career was marred by painful production methods, dangerous improvisations, and a director's personal demons made manifest. Actors were subjected to chemical irritants, real criminals stumbled onto set, and Gary Oldman's unhinged performance terrified cast members for real. Today, I'm revealing 20 weird facts about Léon, the professional that even hardcore fans don't know. Number 1. The accidental film. Léon, the professional, was never supposed to exist. Director Luc Besson had already begun production on his sci-fi epic The Fifth Element when Bruce Willis's scheduling conflict caused a massive delay. Rather than disband his crew and lose momentum, Besson frantically wrote the script for Léon in just 30 days as a filler project. What began as an afterthought became his most enduring masterpiece. The rushed writing process explains the raw, unfiltered nature of the film. Besson didn't have time for second-guessing or studio notes. The script poured directly from his subconscious, which is why it feels so emotionally authentic, yet strangely uncomfortable. The pressure cooker situation created something that careful planning never could have. Ironically, the Throwaway Project is now considered vastly superior to The Fifth Element, the film it was merely supposed to hold space for. Number 2. Chemical tears. Natalie Portman's gut-wrenching performance came at a painful cost. When filming the pivotal scene where Matilda discovers her family's massacre, the 12-year-old actress couldn't produce real tears. Besson's solution was shockingly cruel. He had a crew member spray mint oil directly into her eyes. The sensation was so agonizing that Portman developed an instantaneous method for crying on cue in all future scenes. She simply imagined the mint oil returning. The trauma became a permanent acting tool. Years later, Portman would recall how this moment transformed her approach to emotional scenes forever. It wasn't just method acting, it was physical conditioning through pain. The tears you see in the film aren't just those of Matilda mourning her family. They're the tears of a child actor experiencing genuine physical distress, creating a layer of authenticity that's both remarkable and disturbing. Number 3. The Beethoven Improv. Gary Oldman's iconic, "I like these calm little moments before the storm" Beethoven monologue, completely improvised. Not just once, but multiple times. Besson filmed several takes, with Oldman creating a different improvised speech about Beethoven in each version. The version that made the final cut wasn't even the most unhinged. Oldman had gone deeper and darker in other takes. This unscripted chaos extended to the famous interrogation scene with Matilda's father, where Oldman's invasive sniffing and personal space violations weren't in the script. Actor Michael Badalucco's look of genuine discomfort was real. He had no idea Oldman would get that close or behave so erratically. The raw fear you see in the scene is authentic. Oldman's commitment to spontaneity created an atmosphere where no actor ever felt safe, mirroring the unstable world of corrupt DEA agent Stansfield perfectly. Number 4. Reno's protective strategy. Jean Reno made a crucial character choice that transformed the entire film. Concerned about the potentially inappropriate relationship between Léon and 12-year-old Matilda, Reno deliberately played the hitman as mentally slow and emotionally stunted, essentially a child in a man's body. This deliberate choice made the character both more innocent and more tragic. It wasn't just an acting decision, it was a protective measure for both the audience and his young co-star. Reno has stated that in his mind, Léon was a 10-year-old boy in love with a 12-year-old girl, making their connection emotionally authentic without becoming inappropriate. During the most uncomfortable scenes, Reno allowed Portman to emotionally control the interaction, giving her power in moments that could have felt exploitative. His protective approach created the strange innocence that makes the film work despite its troubling premise. Number 5. The contract cigarettes. Natalie Portman's parents were so concerned about the adult content that they created a legally binding smoking contract before allowing their daughter to participate. The document specifically limited smoking scenes to exactly 5, prohibited showing Portman inhaling or exhaling smoke on camera, and required Matilda to quit by the film's conclusion. These strict parameters became creative challenges that Besson had to work around, resulting in the distinctive way smoking is portrayed in the film. The contract's existence reveals how precariously balanced the production was. One parental objection could have derailed the entire project. Unlike many child actors who were exploited in Hollywood, Portman had fierce advocates protecting her on set. The cigarette restrictions created the strange disconnect in smoking scenes that fans have noticed for years. Matilda holds cigarettes, but is rarely shown actually smoking them. What seemed like a stylistic choice was actually legal necessity. Number 6. The unseen version. The original cut of Léon was significantly darker and more controversial. Test screenings in Los Angeles went catastrophically wrong when audiences laughed nervously during a scene where Matilda asks Léon to be her lover. The disastrous reaction prompted Besson to cut approximately 25 minutes of the most troubling material. What remains isn't even the full story. The international version, or version integral, restores many of these scenes, creating a substantially different film with more explicit training sequences and a deeper, more morally ambiguous relationship between the main characters. Even with the restored footage, some scenes never made the final cut, including one where Léon walks in on Matilda showering. The film we know represents just one possibility of what could have been, with entire storylines and character developments eliminated to make American audiences comfortable. The compromised vision haunted Besson, who later insisted the international version was his true director's cut. Number 7. The real criminal surrender. In a bizarre case of life imitating art, a real criminal accidentally stumbled onto the production during a robbery getaway. While filming a scene with multiple fake police cars lining a New York street, an actual thief who had just robbed a nearby store ran into the movie set. Seeing all the police vehicles, the criminal immediately surrendered to a group of costume-wearing extras who had no idea what was happening. The production had inadvertently caught a real criminal. This surreal incident blurred the line between the film's fictional law enforcement and actual justice in a way that perfectly mirrors the movie's themes about the thin boundary between legitimate and illegitimate authority. The criminal's confusion mirrored the audience's disorientation with Stansfield's corrupt DEA agents. When the badges are real, but the justice is fake, who's really the criminal? The irony wasn't lost on the cast and crew, who were creating a story about moral ambiguity when reality proved just as ambiguous. Number 8. The abandoned sequel. Besson wrote a complete script for a Léon sequel that would have followed an adult Matilda becoming a cleaner herself. The project, tentatively called Matilda, was shelved when Besson left Gaumont Film Company to form his own studio. The potential sequel died in development, leaving fans to forever wonder what became of the young girl after she planted Léon's plant at the school. Natalie Portman has occasionally expressed interest in revisiting the character, but as years passed, the possibility grew remote. The abandoned sequel represents one of cinema's great what-if scenarios, a rare instance where audiences genuinely wanted to see what happened next, but industry politics prevented it from materializing. The fact that the script exists somewhere, completed but unfilmed, has fueled fan speculation for decades about what dark path Matilda might have traveled down after her traumatic childhood. Number 9. The cleaner connection. Léon wasn't conceived as a standalone character. He was directly inspired by Victor the Cleaner from Besson's previous film La Femme Nikita. Jean Reno played that character too, sporting the same wool coat, knit cap, and sunglasses that became Léon's signature look. This connection reveals Besson's fascination with professional killers who maintain rigid codes of conduct. The working title was simply The Cleaner, cementing the film's origin as a character study spun off from a minor role. What's fascinating is how a supporting character deemed worthy of further exploration became one of cinema's most memorable protagonists. The evolution from Victor to Léon demonstrates how sometimes the most compelling characters lurk in the background, waiting for their moment. This film-to-film connection also explains why Léon feels so fully formed from the first frame. He had already existed in Besson's creative universe. Number 10. The casting war. Natalie Portman beat out 2,000 other young actresses for the role of Matilda, but was initially rejected by casting director Todd Thaler for being too young. Her emotional audition, particularly the scene where she cries about her brother's death, was so powerful that Besson overruled the casting director and gave her the part immediately. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because we're about to dive even deeper into the darkest secrets of this film. Your support helps us uncover more of these hidden Hollywood stories that the studios don't want you to know. Number 11. The Everyone Joke. Gary Oldman's most iconic line in the film, the maniacal screamed, "Everyone," was never supposed to happen. In previous takes, he had delivered the line, "Bring me everyone," at normal volume. As a joke to make Besson laugh, Oldman told the sound technician to remove his headphones and then screamed the line as loudly as possible. The director was so impressed by the unhinged delivery that he kept it in the final cut. What began as an on-set prank became one of the most memorable and meme-worthy moments in 90s cinema. This spontaneous outburst perfectly captured Stansfield's unpredictable, drug-fueled psychosis. The line's intensity has made it a cultural touchstone, referenced and parodied in countless other media. Oldman himself has mentioned being surprised by how this throwaway moment became so defining. The fact that the film's most quoted line was essentially a blooper demonstrates how the greatest cinematic moments often arise from chaos rather than planning. Number 12. The dangerous final act. The explosive finale, where Léon rigs himself with grenades, was significantly more dangerous to film than it appears. The production used real grenade pins attached to fake devices, but the stunts and pyrotechnics during the hallway sequence resulted in several crew injuries. The chaotic final shootout pushed the boundaries of what stunt teams could safely achieve in the early 90s. Jean Reno performed many of his own stunts during the sequence, resulting in multiple minor injuries, including burns and a sprained ankle. The SWAT team actors endured grueling conditions in full tactical gear under hot lights for days of shooting. What looks like cinematic fiction was physically punishing reality for those involved. The sequence was filmed in the tight confines of actual New York buildings, rather than spacious sound stages, adding to the danger and claustrophobia. The authentic panic you see on screen came from performers who were genuinely concerned for their safety. Number 13. The original ending. Besson's first draft had an ending so dark it shocked even hardened producers. Instead of Matilda planting Léon's beloved plant at her school, she was originally meant to become unhinged with grief and revenge. In this alternate conclusion, after Stansfield kills Léon, Matilda opens her jacket to reveal grenades strapped to her body. She would then pull the rings using Léon's technique and detonate herself, Stansfield, and the entire building in an apocalyptic murder-suicide. Besson eventually changed this bleak finale, believing it betrayed Matilda's character development. The revised ending, with its symbolic planting of new life, offered hope instead of despair. This dramatic shift from nihilistic violence to tentative optimism represents Besson wrestling with the film's complex morality. The original ending would have transformed the film from a redemption story to a Greek tragedy of cyclical violence and destruction, a vastly different emotional experience. Number 14. Portman's parental protection. Beyond the smoking contract, Natalie Portman's parents negotiated extraordinary protections for their daughter. They demanded script changes, were present for every shoot day, and required that certain scenes be filmed with specific camera angles to avoid sexualizing the young actress. They even insisted that Matilda's training montage be altered to remove scenes where she learned to use certain weapons. Their vigilance created tension with Besson, who had to constantly modify his vision to accommodate their concerns. Unlike many child actors who were left vulnerable by fame-hungry parents, Portman benefited from guardians who prioritized her welfare over her career. Their protective approach helped her navigate the transition from child actor to respected adult performer without the traumas that have derailed many young Hollywood careers. Number 15, the Shakespearean Oldman. Gary Oldman approached Stansfield not as a typical action movie villain, but as a Shakespearean character with classical theatrical training. He studied drug addicts and corrupt officials, but also incorporated elements of Richard III and Iago into his performance. His character's appreciation for Beethoven wasn't random. It connected to Oldman's belief that truly complex villains have sophisticated tastes that contrast with their brutality. During filming, Oldman maintained emotional distance from Portman off-camera to preserve the terrifying dynamic between their characters. This method approach created genuine fear. Portman has stated she was genuinely terrified during their scenes together. Oldman's performance was so disturbing that crew members occasionally felt uncomfortable during his most intense scenes. The theatrical training behind his seemingly unhinged performance explains why Stansfield feels both wildly unpredictable and precisely calibrated, a villainous turn that actors still study and emulate decades later. Number 16. The shocking hotel scene. One of the film's most uncomfortable moments, when Matilda tells a hotel manager that Léon is her lover rather than her father, was almost cut from the American release. The scene remained because test audiences interpreted it as showing Matilda's manipulation skills rather than any actual romantic relationship. This razor-thin distinction demonstrates the moral tightrope the film walks. The same scene plays completely differently depending on cultural context. European audiences viewed it as dark comedy, while American viewers found it deeply troubling. This single interaction encapsulates the cultural divide in how the film was received globally. What's fascinating is how this moment forces viewers to confront their own discomfort. Are we disturbed because we believe Léon might actually view Matilda romantically, or because a child is using adult concepts she shouldn't understand? The scene's ambiguity makes it function as a psychological test for the audience. Number 17. The method, milk. Jean Reno's character drinking milk wasn't just a quirky character trait, it was a deliberately constructed symbol with multiple meanings. Besson wanted a visual metaphor for Léon's emotional immaturity and childlike innocence, but also needed something that would contrast starkly with the violence of his profession. The milk became a multi-layered symbol, representing purity amid corruption, childhood amid adult violence, and nurturing amid destruction. Reno incorporated the milk drinking into his physical performance, using it to signal shifts between Léon's professional killer mode and his vulnerable personal side. The actor has revealed that he developed specific ways of handling the milk glass depending on the emotional state of the scene. What seemed like a simple character quirk was actually an elaborate acting technique. This attention to symbolic detail explains why the film resonates on a subconscious level. It's communicating through visual metaphor as much as dialogue. Number 18. The Maryland ignorance. In one of the film's most memorable and uncomfortable scenes, Matilda dresses up as Marilyn Monroe and performs a birthday serenade for Léon. What few realize is that Natalie Portman had never seen Monroe's famous Happy Birthday, Mr. President performance and had no cultural reference for what she was imitating. Besson deliberately kept Portman unaware of the adult connotations behind the scene, allowing her to perform it with an innocence that contrasts unsettlingly with its implications. Portman later revealed that she based her interpretation on a brief parody she had seen in the film Wayne's World, having no idea of the original's sensual nature. This cultural disconnect created the scene's distinctive quality, Matilda mimicking adult seduction without understanding it, much like playing with loaded emotional weapons. The sequence's power comes from this layered ignorance. Matilda doesn't understand what she's doing, Portman didn't understand what she was referencing, and Léon doesn't understand how to respond. Number 19. The exact timing. The film contains a masterclass in tension building through precise timing. When Stansfield announces he will arrive at noon to kill Matilda's family, Besson shows a clock reading 11:58. The subsequent sequence lasts exactly 2 minutes of screen time before Stansfield appears, perfectly on time. This meticulous attention to real-time action required incredibly precise choreography and editing. The sequence was shot with multiple cameras to capture every angle simultaneously, ensuring the timing remained consistent. This exactitude extends throughout the film. Léon's cleaning jobs are shown with similar precision, emphasizing his methodical nature. The choreographed timing creates subconscious dread as we watch seconds tick away toward inevitable violence. This approach to time differs drastically from typical action films of the era, which manipulated time for dramatic effect rather than adhering to its relentless forward march. The technique makes viewers feel the same helplessness as the characters, trapped in time's unstoppable progression toward catastrophe. Number 20. The Transcontinental Trickery. The film appears to take place entirely in New York, but the production employed an elaborate illusion. All interior apartment scenes were actually shot in Paris, while only the exterior hallway scenes were filmed in New York. 6 weeks apart, this geographical sleight of hand required meticulous planning to maintain visual continuity between continents. The famous tracking shot down a New York street could only be achieved after studying traffic light patterns to ensure the camera truck wouldn't hit red lights. The production team precisely measured and reconstructed Léon's apartment hallway in Paris to match the real New York location exactly. This continental divide explains why the film has such a distinctive visual quality. It's literally a European perspective on American urban life. The French interiors have subtly different proportions and lighting than genuine American apartments, creating the slightly dreamlike quality that permeates Léon's world. This transcontinental production method physically manifests the film's cultural duality. Bonus fact: the most controversial aspect of Léon. The Professional is rarely discussed. Mathilda's character was allegedly inspired by Besson's relationship with actress Maïwenn Lebesco, who was only 15 when they began dating while Besson was 32. They married when she turned 16, and she gave birth to their daughter when she was 17. Lebesco even appears briefly in the film as a blonde woman in the hotel lobby. This troubling real-life connection casts the entire film in a different light, suggesting it may be a form of self-justification or examination of a relationship that would be considered illegal in many countries. The power imbalance between Léon and Mathilda mirrors Besson's own life in ways that make the film's exploration of inappropriate attachments deeply personal rather than merely fictional. This context transforms Léon from simply a controversial film to a disturbing window into its creator's psyche, art and life blurring in ways that continue to complicate the film's legacy. Léon. The Professional wasn't just a groundbreaking action film. It was a complex moral battleground where childhood innocence collided with adult violence, creating something unforgettable, yet perpetually uncomfortable. The characters' damaged souls and unlikely connection continue to haunt audiences, not despite, but because of the tensions and contradictions that nearly derailed its production. If you found these revelations surprising, hit subscribe for more deep dives into the films that shaped cinema history. The most powerful movies are often the most troubled behind the scenes, and we're just getting started uncovering Hollywood's darkest secrets.